I get it, you're staring at a rack of NAS boxes online and wondering if any of them will actually save you time, protect your data, and not end up as a pricey paperweight. You've probably heard the buzz about fast 2.5 GB and Ryzen powered, but you also know how easy it is to splash out on a machine that sounds impressive on paper and then sit with an underutilized unit in a corner. The biggest fear is spending hard-earned cash on a home office server that either underdelivers or forces you into a maze of upgrades you never wanted. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about the Synology DS925 Plus with the 22.5 GB ports, Ryzen V1500B, 4GB RAM, and the 4-bay 16TB bundle that ships with 4TB Seagate Ironwolf drives. At a glance, it's positioned as a step up from the DS923 Plus, promising a little more horsepower and faster network throughput. But the real question is, does that translate into day-to-day benefits for a typical power user, a small creative studio, or a home media enthusiast? I dug into the specs, read through the handful of community posts, and compared a few real-world scenarios to see where this box actually shines and where it might leave you wanting more. First, who should even consider a Synology like this? If you're running multiple virtual machines, need Docker containers for testing code, or you're a photographer who constantly ingests raw files from several cameras and wants instant, reliable backups, the extra CPU cores on the Ryzen V1500B make a noticeable difference. The processor isn't just a number, it lets the DSM, Disk Station Manager, handle transcoding for Plex or other media services without choking when multiple streams start at once. That matters if your family binge watches 4K content on different devices while you're editing a 10GB video project on the same network. Equally important is the 2.5 GB connectivity. In a typical gigabit home network, you might see transfer speeds top out around 110 megabytes per second when moving large video files. With two 2.5 GB ports, you can bond them for up to roughly 300 megabytes per second in ideal conditions, shaving minutes off multi-terabyte backups. If you have a 2.5 GB capable router or a switch, that speed boost is tangible, especially when you're moving a full-size Lightroom catalog or a batch of 4K footage. For users whose network is still stuck at 1 GB, the extra ports won't hurt, but you won't see the full benefit until you upgrade the rest of your infrastructure. Now, let's talk about the storage side. The bundle comes with 4TB Ironwolf drives, which are tuned for NAS environments. That gives you 16 terabytes raw capacity, and with Synology's SHR, Synology Hybrid RAID, you can protect against a single drive failure while still using most of that space. In practice, that means you can keep a massive photo library, a growing collection of movies, and still have room for backups without constantly juggling partitions. The Ironwolf drives also have rotational vibration sensors, which helps maintain performance when all 4 disks spin at once, useful when you're doing a full backup while simultaneously streaming a show. What about the downsides? The first practical limitation I noticed is that the 4 GB of RAM, while adequate for basic file serving and a couple of Docker containers, can become a bottleneck if you try to run many services at once. Synology allows you to upgrade to 8 GB, but that's an extra cost and a physical RAM module you have to install yourself. If you're planning to run several virtual machines or intensive analytics tasks, you might quickly hit that ceiling. Another consideration is noise. For 7,200 revolutions per minute, drives in a compact enclosure generate a steady hum that can be audible if the box lives in an office or bedroom. It's not a deal breaker for most server rooms, but it's worth noting if you value a quiet workspace. Thermal performance is also worth a quick look. The DS925 Plus relies on a passive heatsink and a single internal fan that only kicks in under load. In a warm room, the drives can run a few degrees hotter than their optimal range, which could slightly reduce their lifespan over years of constant operation. Many users mitigate this by placing the unit on a ventilated shelf or adding a small external fan. It's a small inconvenience compared to the convenience of having a centralized storage hub, but it's still a trade-off. From a software perspective, DSM is one of the most polished NAS operating systems out there. The apps you'll likely use: FileStation for drag-and-drop uploads, AudioStation for streaming music, Synology Drive for personal cloud syncing, and Surveillance Station if you have IP cameras, are all intuitive and get regular updates. The Quick Start wizard walks you through RAID configuration, user permissions, and enabling services like HTTPS. For a small business that needs a simple way to share files across a few workstations, This eliminates the need to juggle separate cloud subscriptions. On the flip side, some advanced features, like deep learning video analytics, require additional license fees. If you're only after basic file storage, you'll be paying for capabilities you'll never use.